Welcome back, Wagoneers, to another exciting episode of the Wasted Wagons podcast. This is a special episode for us. This is our first interview segment. It's called Wasted Wagons Uncovered. And our first guest is Mr. PJ Hawx over here. PJ, how are you doing?
I'm doing fantastic. Thank you for the warm welcome. How about yourselves? How are you guys doing?
We are ecstatic to have you here, but we're all doing pretty well.
Yeah, very happy to have you as our first interview, and we're excited to see what you have to say. So.
Yeah, I mean, we know you have a busy schedule, so we really thank you and appreciate your time being here.
Well, for Mr. Olivier, as I say, there's no problem for me. No problem at all.
All right.
Thank you, man.
All right, so we're just going to ask you kind of a slew of questions here, and whatever you feel like you can respond to, please do. If you feel uncomfortable asking us, just let us know.
Plead the fifth, we're good.
Gotcha.
So you called him Mr. Olivier. Todd, can you explain to us how you actually know PJ and get a little backstory about this? Because this is really you setting us up for us and helping us out get this done. So
Yeah, I mean, PJ attended the now defunct Grace King High School.
Rest in peace.
I was his counselor for at least 2 of the 4 years there. Outstanding wrestler, high school wrestler. But one thing, a lot of people recognize PJ Hawx for is being an independent wrestler, particularly Wildcat. They also recognize him for going viral, jumping off the second floor of the Esplanade Mall and into the ring below.
we'll get to that later in the question segment.
But what people probably don't recognize about PJ Hawx or even know about PJ Hawx is that he was quite an academic scholar at Grace King High School.
Do you happen to have my academic record by chance?
I actually just pulled it up and looked at it a few minutes ago. PJ had a 4.05 GPA in high schough.
What can I say? I wish some of that translated more to my adult life. But I would say I was pretty good throughout my school, and even college. I joke around, but I went to college at UNO. But Grace King was a good time, man. It's a shame that the school unfortunately closed down, but a lot of good memories and, a lot of good connections. And Todd, it was definitely one of the...
Wow, first name basis now.
I know, right?
How
You
cool
go
is
from
that?
Mr. Olivier to going to Todd, but it's pretty cool and pretty surreal to kind of, move on and see somebody that's kind of, watch me kind of grow up and do all those kind of things. But yeah, that's kind of how we know each other. He was my counselor, I believe, my sophomore and also my junior year of high school.
Yep.
Okay, so I want to ask a question.
He was a good counselor.
He was fantastic. Yeah. I mean, definitely. I've had some other ones, but he was by far the
Because
best.
if he wasn't, we want to hear about
I mean,
it.
have you not seen the video with Dr. K. Brumley? I mean, I'm the GOAT.
Okay.
Now, look, that was going to be my first question. What was it like for you having him as your counselor?
Oh, he was great. Anytime I needed to ask any questions or stuff like that, he was there. He was definitely a counselor that was readily available, ready to help students. And I can attest from a bunch of my other classmates, I told them I was coming on the podcast, and obviously I know we were going to talk about wrestling and do those kind of things. But again, everybody that went to high school with us, they're like, oh, you going Mr. Olivier? Man, he was awesome. We love Mr. Olivier, my wife I was telling her, she's like, oh, all the girls, they'd always joke around. It's like, Olivier. That was the nickname and stuff like that. It's funny though. It's cool.
I never knew that, by the way.
No, this is a podcast exclusive. So you find out what the sophomore class of I don't know what 2015 called you, but no, everybody really did love Mr. Olivier. He was a great counselor. So it was a true pleasure, and that was a cool thing about Grace King, and also just having a public education in Jefferson Parish. We really did have a lot of great teachers. Great faculty there. Of course, every school has its ups and downs, but I would say we were truly blessed to have a very good environment for learning and stuff.
That's awesome to hear, but I don't know if we're making any special titles for this episode, but Olivia Bay might be one of them.
That's 100% going to be a subtitle for it.
But I'm glad he mentioned Mary because I have to ask. I mean, we're married recently. Was she your high school sweetheart?
I mean, if by technical definition, no. So my wife and I, her name's Mary. My name's Perry. I go by PJ, real name, or not real name, but PJ Perry Julian. So PJ. But anyways, my wife and I, we met in middle school, and we were always just best friends from there. You know, you can actually see my senior year, I did a homecoming video. She's in the homecoming. You know, she's like, "Oh, why do you want to vote for PJ? Oh, because he's my best friend." You know, so like, you know, we've always stuck real close. She loved wrestling too. She was, I was a big CM Punk fan. You know, still am, and she was a big AJ Lee fan. So ironically, it was kind of like meant to be almost in that sense too. You know, like you got the two lovers in there, and then eventually we always just stayed close and. You know, we started dating in college, and then eventually got married. Yeah, we make 2 years of marriage in May, which is kind of crazy. You know, it's for me. You know, I'm 26 years old, but it's kind of surreal sometimes. You know, looking back, I was talking to somebody the day before, and they're like, "You've only been married a year, right?" I'm like, "No, I make 2 years in May," and you know, that's something I definitely have learned as getting older. Is definitely appreciate the time because it goes by quick, and just enjoy the memories, and you know. But yeah, I'm highly grateful for my wife. She's an amazing person, amazing friend. I couldn't ask for a better partner in life. You know, a life partner and lover. So
That's awesome.
yeah.
Yeah, Congratulations.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Now, she didn't graduate from King, right? Didn't she?
She did. No, she did. So we were in the same class. Yeah.
Okay.
20. So we graduated Grace King class of 2017. We both graduated from same class.
Okay, I thought she had left for a bit. No.
No. She was there the entire time. So I mean, I had a couple other friends that did leave and stuff like that, but no, we were there the entire time together.
All right, cool. So married life's going well.
Yeah, I love it. So and it's great.
Any kids? in the
No,
future?
no, sir. But you know, eventually we'd like to have some kids eventually. But you know, that's down the road. I still, you know, we're both pursuing a lot of things. You know, with I mean, I did my undergraduate, but just doing more with school. You know, and same thing with her. You know, pursuing stuff, and with pro wrestling. You know, it's something that's, you know, it's very time consuming. And especially, you know, in the independent and even like, you know, say getting signed like an NXT kind of deal or something like that. That's something that's, you know, it's very intense. You have to be gone from home. You're moving a lot. You don't know what kind it is. So, you know, obviously you never know when it happens. It happens. Of course, you know, we'll be ready. But, you know, in the meantime, we're just kind of waiting and seeing it out because I think, you know, life's kind of moving in a bunch of different directions. So we're just trying to kind of see where it takes us. But again, like I said, whenever it's time, we'll be ready.
Cool. Along the same lines, so what do you actually do for work as your primary day in, day out job?
Yeah, so actually I'm doing physical therapy teching. So I'm a PT tech. I'm trying to go back to school. I'm currently in school for physical therapy. We're going for physical therapy assistant. So be applying to that this upcoming semester at Delgado. But yeah, pretty much that is just been. I did my undergrad at UNO. I graduated UNO in December of 2022. And yeah, I went for exercise physiology, and yeah, so the timelines it's a little weird, you know, because between all that there was a lot of film work, you know, we can kind of get into all that stuff. So like it all kind of jumped around. But anyway, like I said, anyways, that's what I'm doing right now, and that's kind of what I'm looking forward to or to doing as, you know, my job outside of wrestling, because you know I think. There's a lot of things that people don't really see about the professional wrestling world. Again, it's very intense, and besides that, you know, you can get very injury prone. I think a lot of people don't realize that, especially when they're younger. Is like, oh, I'm gonna be fine. You know, I'm gonna be doing this time, this, and this, and like, well, you know, there's a potential reality that one day when you get in the ring, you can get hurt, and not even off something crazy. You know, you just get. I've seen people that have gotten, you know, a simple move done, and you know they've broken something, and it's like. The one thing I don't want to do, especially, again, being a father eventually, is not being able to provide or doing this kind of thing. So that's one thing I thought about is like, all right, well, you know, while I'm young and while I'm good, you know, like let me make sure to get my schooling done, make sure I'm able to have a good job where I can steadily make money, something, again, the health field and technology are stuff that's really growing. And yeah, it's something I enjoy too. I mean, for myself, you know, I'm a very active person. I'm constantly, I train probably anywhere from 5 to 6 times a week, you know, and probably more than that, honestly. Like, you know, it depends. Like if we're counting in-ring training, at least 3 times a week. But you talking about gym, you talking about if I go roll around the mats and stuff like that, you know, it's multiple times. And I mean, for us, it's very important to learn how to recover and take care of your body. You know, a lot of people don't, you know. When it's time to take care of themselves, it's too late, you know, because now you have the injury or now, you know, like you have a lot of damage, and it's so much harder to come back from that setback. And that's something why physical therapy, and sorry, long-winded answer, but that's why physical therapy kind of called to me. It's just because, and it was a conversation I had with my mother. She was like, oh, like I told her, like, I want to do business. She's like, why are you doing that? I'm like, well, because. And she's like, why don't you do something that's going to be useful? And I'm like, oh, yeah, do physical therapy. I'm like, yeah, that's a great point. But it's for pro wrestling, we're taking so many bumps, so many, driving, doing these kind of things, these training, the working out. And it's just really important to take care of your body. And again, it's something I really enjoy. It's fun to help out people. Like right now I'm not giving, as a tech, you don't really give any kind of aid to people and stuff like that, like the manual therapy and stuff, but we are assigning like exercises, helping them correct their form and stuff like that, doing other kind of things. So it's cool to see people help them get better and stuff like that. And at the same time too, like eventually, like when I am a therapist or a physical therapist assistant, it'll be fun to help them out and see them recover on their journey.
Cool. So not to toot my own horn, I'm a professional kickball player.
Okay, awesome.
And also a little bit of an older guy.
Yeah.
So I am now going to physical therapy for like a lower back related injury like that. And I'll tell you right now, it's one of the best things I've ever done going to PT. It sucks when you're in the moment because you're getting on some really uncomfortable positions and stretches and things like that. And especially when you get on like the traction machine.
Yes, yeah.
But that's my favorite part of PT.
Yeah.
The stretching is all that. It's all pain, but it's worth it. But when I get to get on the ladder on the back and get the traction machine going, it's some of the best 15, 20 minutes I get to have. And it's so rewarding to like get up and like, oh, the pain is it might still be there, but it's so much less than what it was when I started and this and that.
Yeah. And for sure, I mean, you can attest to that. And I think, everybody needs to be better about their health, because again, at the end of the day, there's something that is saying that you hear. And as I've gotten older, it's one of those, cliche sayings are really the truest sayings, but you only have one body. And you really need to take care of it. If your body's saying it's hurting, listen to it. You know what I mean? Same thing with food. Try to eat better, trying to eat cleaner. Those kind of things, and it all makes a difference. So I mean, people can attest to that. Therapy. At the end of the day, you might have an injury. It may be super severe, where you may not ever get back to 100%, but 90 is still pretty good compared to 30, 40, 20% or less. So it's like you gotta pick your battles. But again, I think it's a great field. And besides that, I mean, I do stunt works in movies as well. I've been a stunt man, and besides pro wrestling, of course, that's the number one for me in my life. But stunt work as well in movies. I've done a little bit of acting and stunt work. I've done that since I started my pro wrestling career in 2017. I started training right after high school in the summer of 2017. And I made my debut in November of 2017, my pro wrestling debut. And then I made my film career debut in a movie called Semper Fi with Nat Wolff. He was in the Naked Brothers band in Nickelodeon. Jai Courtney. I know he played Captain Boomerang and Suicide Squad and stuff. That was in 2018, a movie called Semper Fi. I had a little bar fight scene with him, Nat, in the bathroom where...
You and Jai Courtney?
No, me and Nat Wolff. So, but Jai Courtney, so essentially the movie's about... Nat Wolff is the younger brother, and... his brothers in I believe they're both the Marines, but the older brother, like the little brother's just kind of like getting in trouble and stuff like that, and the older brother's like, oh, like you need to straighten up and stuff like that. Well, anyways, he knew me, I guess, for some reason in the movie. We talked some trash like in the bar, and then eventually we go in the bar, the bathroom. One of another stunt guy. So the scene is he comes in, he pushes him while he's peeing in the urinal, and he thinks it's me. So we start going. I push him, he punches me, and I had to hit my head on a toilet, a urinal, and I died from that. So in the movie, you know what I mean. So rest in peace. Man, I forget my name in the movie, but I died. So he ended up going to jail in the movie, and his brother had to break him out, and they're trying to get him up to Canada and stuff like that. It was I don't know what it's on, but it was called Semper Fi. But stunt work's a lot of fun. It's funny because there's a lot of parallels between pro wrestling and stunt work because pro wrestling, we're constantly getting in a bunch of different, positions where we're getting slammed, thrown around, put through stuff, and stunt world it's very similar. We're getting through, crashing through tables or getting hit by cars and stuff like that and doing all these kind of things. And every job's a little different, but yeah, those are my big three: wrestling, stunts, and like therapy.
PJ, you mentioned injury.
Yeah.
What was your worst injury while you were wrestling?
I want to knock it. Is this table wood?
As close to wood.
Is this wood?
It looks
Okay,
wood.
all right. I've never been seriously injured in a pro wrestling match, so I'm gonna knock on the wood right there.
Stunt
but
work?
stunt work either. I've had a lot of bruises, like that. So that stunt gig I told you guys about, actually, it was supposed to be a rubber toilet or a rubber urinal. It was a new urinal regardless, but it was a rubber urinal, and it was supposed to be a rubber urinal, and they didn't order the rubber urinal, so I had like a little thin foam green mat on it over it. So like I did it like 20 times, and luckily I was wearing, there's little things we have like wearing sleeves and stuff, or sweatpants, so you can wear more pads. So luckily I was able to have hard pads to protect myself from the floor. But the way I had to eat it, I had a giant knot on my forehead, you know what I mean, afterwards. And luckily, I'm a little crazy, so it was okay. I ended up being okay, but I had a hard knot. But I would say there was one pro wrestling match actually. Wildcat had Wildcat's the promotion I used to wrestle for, kind of still, I did wrestle for here in Louisiana, and what you call it? They were doing a show up in the ECW arena, and the opponent I was wrestling, we were going it was the end of the match, and the way it literally it moved, pin afterwards. I pinned him 1, 2, 3. He goes to clothesline me, and it ricochets up to my mouth and it splits my mouth open in the inside. So so I end up having to get some stitches in my mouth. So, but again, that's nothing. But I just remember after, I just felt the blood. I just grabbed it, I just rubbed it over my face. I was in the ECW arena, you know what I mean? So of course I had to do something crazy like that. But yeah, again, I've been really blessed to have not been hurt too bad. Of course there's things where like you're sore, or just afterwards, it's a little hard to breathe, just because from land and stuff like that. But it's nothing too gruesome, nothing too crazy. Thank God. So
Cool. Do you do any sort of like ice bath recovery or anything like that? Or
oh yeah, definitely. No, I don't ice bath. I'm not that tough to do that. That's a different type of tough. But I do ice very regularly. One thing is I'm always kind of standing. So just like icing my knees, icing my ankles after standing up all day. That's one thing I do a lot. Massage guns, just like Theragunning myself. Stretching was another really big component for me in terms of training. There's again, I'm 26, but even like a couple years ago, I didn't really stretch or warm up too much, and that really affected me in terms of my training. I didn't realize how important that was in order for me to feel good. Like now if I don't stretch, don't warm up, typically it's like 10 minutes of just like some dynamic stretching. So instead of just holding a stretch, like doing, I don't know if you guys have ever seen it, but it's like a hamstring stretch where they kind of get into like a one leg straight, one leg bent, reaching down for the leg. They walk in the field, kind of if you've ever done track or something like that, those track stretches. Like walking, pulling up with the ankle to stretch the quad, those kind of things, or doing some rowing. Like a good 5-10 minute rowing, just to warm up the body, get the muscles moving, walking, things like that. But again, if I don't do that the next day, I'm super stiff, and my back just is really tense. Muscles are really tense. So that's another thing. Ice, warming up, just making sure I'm doing that kind of stuff, massaging, those kind of things. Really important, especially before matches. I have a little warm up routine, but it's very important to do all those kind of things.
Okay, you've been wrestling for a little while. I know Todd mentioned that you were on part of Grace King's wrestling team. At what age did you start wrestling?
So if we're talking about high school wrestling, I started amateur wrestling, as they call it, when I want to say it was either 13 or 14, my freshman year of high school. So
okay.
I had never stepped on an amateur wrestling mat before that.
So you didn't do like any kind of youth clubs or anything like that?
No club, no
Wow.
nothing.
Okay.
So
that's interesting.
Yeah, I would say when I was younger, I was very much I don't want to say, I guess pacifist is the best word to use it. Like, my dad would try to sign me up to do football and stuff like that. I'm like, I don't want to hurt the kids. You know what I mean? Like, I don't want to, like, it's just like, I was always very much like, no, I don't want to do that. I did Taekwondo. Like, there's a little picture of me, like, I was like 5, like that and stuff like that. But I like that. But no, I never really did contact sports. I did baseball, and I was terrible at it. Same thing with soccer. I had good stamina, from running and stuff like that. And I ended up doing track and field at the middle school I went to was called Meisler in Metairie. And but they didn't have any wrestling teams. The only wrestling teams they had were in the high school level or private schools, and I wasn't in many private schools. And so, yeah, the first time I got on the mats was on Grace King's campus. And reason why that was kind of the thing was also just to toughen up for pro wrestling. The one thing I knew I always wanted to be when I was younger, so my father, his name's Luke Hawx, but he's been wrestling ever since I was a little kid, since I was born. He's been doing it for 26 plus years. So just kind of watching him, it's a little bit of the family business, but at the same time too, it just really inspired me, just going to watch him at the shows and just seeing him kind of perform. It was larger than life, watching Raw and SmackDown and going to all the shows. He would bring me to the shows and stuff like that. And it was really cool to just kind of be in that world. And that was something, like, again, when I knew when I was younger, I wanted to do that. So kind of segueing back to amateur wrestling, I knew, like, I needed to toughen up my body because, like, I wasn't, even though I was very active, like, I'd never done contact sports. And, like, it was just one of those things, like, Kurt Angle, like, I loved Kurt Angle when I was a little kid. And I knew, like, he's Olympic gold medalist. He's just an amazing wrestler and those kind of things. And I'm like, oh, well, this is something I should do. And, yeah, I'm so grateful for my, like, amateur wrestling career. My high school coach, Roberto Furtado, he had been at Grace King for, since, like, the late 90s. I want to say, like, 98, 99 was his first year coaching. I started high school in 2013, so for my freshman year. But he was such an amazing coach, and we had such good assistant coaches, Yazan Hamid, Paul Dugas, eventually Gerald Williams. And we had such a great camaraderie at Grace King, too. Like, it was a team where, like, all the upperclassmen would just come and would help out, and they were just dedicated to helping us out. I talked to so many other people from other schools, and they're like, yeah, we didn't have any of that. We were very lucky to have people that would just come back and help us, and that's really what helped me. Because I would say this, even though I never did contact sports, I was always a person that, like, if I'm going to do something, I'm going to make sure to do it to the best of my ability. I'm going to go and I'm going to go hard. I'm going to try everything, try my best. And it's not fun to lose, in amateur wrestling. It's different from other sports. I played some team sports, I wasn't that good, but it's different because, like, when you lose, it's a team that loses. Sometimes it may not be your fault. You may do good, but the team is like that. This is just one-on-one, If you get pinned, there's nobody but to blame for yourself, you know what I mean? So it's very humbling. Yeah. And my freshman year, it was hard, but it was so much fun, And my freshman year I went 19-19, so it wasn't too bad for a freshman record.
No,
but
that's decent.
Yeah, but I went 0-2 in state, and I'll never forget this. My coach, he came up to me in my last match, and he said, he's like, stick with it, and I'll make you a state champion, and that's something I took to heart, and we just went balls to the wall from that. After that, my summer, we did freestyle and Greco wrestling. I trained really hard, and I got second in freestyle state, and then I got first in Greco state, so I won my first state championship in that, and just kind of kept going, I would train a lot with, like, teams from, like, Destrehan, Hanville, those kind of schools. We had good relations with the other ones. So I would go train with Riverdale, like the local high schools, or even high schools like 30 minutes away. And we'd go train everywhere. And it was really cool, man. I'd go to we go to camps. I'd go to Oklahoma State over the summer. Train with, like, John Smith. He was like a 6-time gold medalist. He's like multiple-time Olympic champion, multiple-time world champion, NCAA champion. I'd go wrestle in, like, Georgia and also Oklahoma, like the national duels and those kind of things. These are kids, like, if you go look. Some of these kids that were on, like, wrestling, I didn't wrestle them, but, like, some of the kids that were there were future NCAA, like, Division I NCAA champions wrestling. So, like, we really upped our game, and especially for a public school, it was amazing to just kind of to do what we did. Like, my sophomore year, we had 4 state placers. I went 39-12 my sophomore year, and I took 4th. I made it to the semifinals, and I took 4th. We had one of my best friend, Mauricio Ballesteros. He ended up taking 6th that year. He unfortunately got injured during the state tournament, so he wasn't able to wrestle. Another friend of mine, he moved away, but Tristan, he took 4th, and another one of the seniors, Jonathan Davati, he took 5th, I believe, that senior year. But, for a public school, for 3 sophomores and 1 senior, and we all placed, it's a testament to how our coach was, our training was and stuff, and it was just a lot of fun. So, I did it all the way to my senior year. I never won state in freestyle. I was I never won state in folk style. I was a freestyle state champion, and I was a Greco state champion. But I took fourth my sophomore year in folk style, fourth my junior year, and then I took third my senior year. I lost in the semifinals, a really close overtime match. But it sucked. But I just remember my coach. This is another. I always love to tell this story. My coach Furtado came up to me. I lost and I was crying. Just because I'm like, man, like all this hard work. It's like it's over. And just like it kind of sucked because like I said, it's like it's just you and the other person. And he went up to me. He's like, it's not over. It's not. Like if you give up right now and don't win third place, you're giving up all that work you put in all these years and all that stuff. And that's something that like really kind of stuck with me, and not just that, but in life. And I think that's. Because, I ended up coming back and I won third. I actually won, I lost my last match in overtime, but I won my last match in overtime. I beat the kid, in overtime, with a takedown. And it's a lesson that with amateur wrestling that I really appreciate because, there's a lot of adversity that we had to deal with, whether it's cutting weight, practicing and all that stuff. But in life, people had to deal with adversities all the time. Think about how many challenges and how easy it is to just say, oh, I'm just going to give up. That's a little too hard. But sometimes you just got to say, screw it and just toughen up and just get through it. And I'm really grateful for, again, like I said, I'm going to say this again, the coaching staff, my teammates, just we had really good camaraderie and just like it wasn't even just about wrestling. It was just the values that were instilled in us from him. You know what I mean? Just having integrity, trying, pushing yourself, being good, trying to help people and those kind of things. And, it made a big difference, and it definitely prepared me for the pro wrestling scene because at the end of the day, by the time I was done with that, it was between going to wrestle for college or start my pro wrestling career. And, everything works out one way or another. I ended up, I'm like, all right, even though I'm getting offers and doing this kind of stuff, out-of-state tuition's a little too much. I'd rather stay in-state, which led to me going to UNO, but that also started my pro wrestling career. As soon as I'd done my high school career, I'm like, all right, like trying to find these colleges, didn't work out. All right, well, I'm going to start at Wildcat. I'm going to start training, and that's kind of what that happened. I graduated my senior year in May, and then I started training in June at Wildcat, and, that was 7 years ago, so...
Look, I think that is I know you're giving a lot of credit to the coaching staff. I think that is a testament to yourself. I know a lot of state champions. My son is a wrestler right now, and I know a lot of state champions do club wrestling. So the fact that you started out as a freshman and was able to win state in both freestyle and Greco at some point, and you said finished third in folk style, yeah, that's pretty darn impressive. So
yeah, thank you. I appreciate that.
I actually have your senior district bracket.
Oh yeah,
it's signed by your dad. I had it. Ever since you graduated, I had it hanging in my office. Coach Hitchens is, right? Coach Hitchens got your dad to sign it for me, and it was on my desk like one morning. I was like, I'm gonna keep this hanging in here.
That's awesome.
And for the record, his son usually is on the pod with us.
Really?
Yep.
That's cool. That's very awesome. Yeah, Coach Hitchens was my track coach, so also my gym coach. But yeah, I also ran cross country against my will. I will say that one. My wrestling coach is also my cross country coach, so he's like, you're gonna stay in shape and stuff like that. Now I was always a good runner. Like it wasn't my favorite, but it was fun to do and push. Get in shape. Like my fastest mile was like 17, 16 or something like that. And then we also run track too. I ran like the mile, the 4x4 and stuff like that. And it was a lot of fun. It was a good way to stay in shape. But yeah, those are like the three sports. I never played football or anything like that. But besides that, like I said, I really enjoyed my high school years at King. It was a great school. Like I said, it is a shame that it got shut down. But at the end of the day, I think there's so many people that from that school that are now at other schools. And I think even though that our high that school may not exist, but our culture in that community does exist elsewhere. Where you can spread that to other schools and other people. And at the end of the day, you can do that, which is cool. So
yeah.
All right, so I know staying on the wrestling topic here, you said that your dad has been in professional wrestling for around 26 years. Growing up with a dad like that, did you ever get to meet any big name wrestlers when you were younger?
Oh yeah. I met it. I was able to meet a ton of wrestlers. It was so cool. I mean, like it really was amazing to just go everywhere with him. We would go. I remember going to shows in Georgia and all that stuff. And man, like I said, I was always a really sensitive kid. Like I still am. I cry at the movies. If there's a sad scene, I'm just like, oh man, you see the tear running down. Guilty. But like anytime he would lose, and again, because I'm like 3 years old. That's the earliest memories I can remember. But like I'm like 3 years old, and I see my dad lose, and I'm just crying. You just lost. You know what I mean? And then he just comes and gets me. Like there's he had found like a clip on Twitter. Somebody had posted where he gets thrown. This is when he was in XPW in California, and he got thrown out the ring, and you just see like he gets thrown out. I just run to go check on him. My mom just grabs me and pulls me back, real quick. But now I was able to meet a ton of just cool wrestlers. Like there's actually a picture, like a bunch of pictures of me, like I was like 5 years old, like with Kane, with Matt Hardy and stuff like that. Like I have one with Victoria. It was cool. Like that's one like I have somewhere like I was able to do like a kind of comparison because I saw her again like for WrestleMania. What was the one in Dallas, like 31 or 32? Do you guys remember? I think it was either 31 or 32. But like we did like side by side pictures. Same thing with Matt Hardy. Like Matt Hardy, like I met him when I was 5. And that's actually a really cool story. We were at a WWE show and my dad and Matt Hardy were cool, and so he got his tickets. But Kane was my favorite wrestler, and this is a time where Edge, Kane, like they were doing like the whole like love triangle kind of thing and stuff like that. So, anyways, in the match, Kane, it's Kane versus Matt Hardy. I think it's like a dark show, you know what I mean? Like a live event show. And, anyways, Kane, Matt hits Kane with a chair, you know what I mean? I'm just like, I'm all mad and all that stuff. And he comes back, he's like, man, he's like, what do you think? And I just come up to him, and I'm like, I just punch him. I'm like, I hate you. He's like, what? You know what I mean? And stuff like that. He's like, no. And then eventually he got Kane, and he's like, no, like we're, it's all good and all that stuff. I'm like, oh, okay, cool. You know what I mean? But, that's one of my favorite stories to tell. Of course, like, other people, we have some ECW stuff over there, but like Tommy Dreamer's one. Like I've known Tommy Dreamer for a long time. Literally for my 14th birthday or 13th birthday, I remember this. Wildcat had a wrestling show. So Wildcat also is the promotion my father owns. It's a school and promotion open since 2011. So they had a show on my birthday, and I get a knock at the door, and it's Tommy Dreamer. He's like, hey man. I'm like, yo, what's up? You know what I mean? Like it's Tommy Dreamer, So we just sit in the couch and we just watch. I remember I think we put like the best of WrestleMania on. We're watching like Undertaker versus Shawn Michaels WrestleMania 25 together and stuff like that. It was just really cool, like it's been a true privilege to be able to just pick their brains. That's like as a little kid I was able to ask so many questions and just learn and just hear so many stories and stuff like that. CM Punk's another one. CM Punk was my favorite. I can remember being like 8-9 years old. I remember when he was coming in, I'm straight edge, I don't smoke, I don't drink, ECW, all that kind of stuff. And I remember the night, it's one of my favorite stories. It's going to lead into me meeting him, but my favorite stories, my dad brought us to Money in the Bank when it was here. I believe it was like 2009. And Jeff Hardy had just beat Edge for the world title. And I was like, yeah. And I'm like, oh, yeah, that's cool. I was waiting for CM Punk because he had won Money in the Bank. And I'm like, everybody's like, what? And I'm like, yeah. You know what I mean? He comes in, he cashes in, he beats him. And I'm just so happy and stuff like that. And eventually, that's one of the things, like, I was able to meet him at Comic-Con. Like, my dad, again, like, had known him and stuff like that. And, he had done, like, a panel there. So we're just cool and just listening. He had finished, my dad goes, hey, like, I know him, like, to the security guy. He's like, no, it's okay. So we go in the back, and, I'm at the time, I was like 13, 14, so I was just, like, kind of, like, starstruck. I'm just, like, there, and I just have this giant, my hair was super long. I have long, curly hair, so you never see me with, like, the super long hair. But it used to be down on my shoulders.
I think your freshman year, you had some pretty
I had long hair, but it wasn't as long as it used to be, so, but, yeah, with Punk, I just remember, like, I just had the long hair, and I'm just staring there, I'm smiling and stuff like that. And it was just real cool. Like, he's like, well, come here, you hippie, and all that stuff. So he picked me up. We did the photo like a GTS, and it was just really cool. Like, I had that picture. And then eventually, a couple years later, like when I was working on the TV show called Heels, I got to work with him again, and we could talk about it at some point. But it's just real cool, man. Like, I've been really fortunate to meet, like, a lot of cool wrestling stars, and it's dope.
I know Patrick has a question about heels, so I, before he asks that, at 26 years old, being in the wrestling business, do you ever still get starstruck?
I would say it's a lot different now just because I'm in the wrestling industry. You know what I mean? It's different when you're a kid because these are the people that you're watching and you're kind of growing up and you're like, oh, this is so cool and stuff like that. And I'm not saying it's not cool. I just say it's different for me because if anything, like, now the excitement is if I get to wrestle, for example, like Fandango, when I was wrestling for NWA, Fandango's one, like when I was like, in my teenage years, I loved Fandango. He was super cool, you know what I mean? Like, it was just a lot of fun to watch and stuff like that.
And the physique.
Yeah, the physique looked great. There's a picture somewhere, like, I think I took it off my Instagram, but there's a picture of me, doing I had the little vest on, doing his little pose and stuff like that. And eventually, my dad and I, when we were doing our tag team stuff in NWA, we wrestled against Fandango and JTG from Crime Time. So like, it's cool things like that to where it's like, wow, like, I remember in Tommy Dreamer is another one. Like one of our shows, X-rated. It's one of our adult-only shows. Normally, our Wildcat shows are always family-friendly and those kind of things. X-rated is like 21 and up, usually at a bar, just so people can drink and do those kind of things. But I got the tag with Tommy Dreamer. It was me, my dad, Tommy Dreamer, and Matt Lancey, another Wildcat OG against like 4 other people. Yeah, on Todd's shirt right there. But it's just cool things like that. It's not necessarily starstruck, but it's just like, it just really makes me think about like, wow, like, I'm getting older and it's just cool that I'm being able to live my dream and do my passion and just, being blessed to just do this. You know what I mean? It's just, to be able to share rings like that, to perform and just show, my talent too, because it's like, they're like, oh, he's not just this little kid anymore. Like PJ, he can go. He's really good in the ring. He can do this and all that stuff. So it's I'm starstruck in that way. I wouldn't say, like, oh my God, you know what I mean? But it's just cool to be like, oh yeah, like it's progress.
Absolutely.
You mentioned the 21 and over shows for Wildcat Wrestling. If you guys have not been to one, do yourself a favor and go to one. I mean, they're hilarious. So that's all I have to say, Pat. You can go ahead.
The first show Travis went to was I think Sabu and Tracy Smothers were there.
Sabu, Tracy Smothers. It was at Shamrock Bar, and it was a trip. It was a real fun night.
So I've actually been to a show but didn't know I was at a Wildcat show because we used to, one of our kickball leagues, Shamrock, was the after bar, and we got passes to go to a wrestling event, and this was pre-COVID, so we're talking like 2017, 2018, something like that. So I've actually been to a show, I just didn't know at the time it was actually like a Wildcat kind of show. Todd, your question actually kind of segues into a question or two I had. You said that you kind of like, Kurt Angle was like someone that you kind of looked up to a little bit. You mentioned Kane, Tommy Dreamer, and such like that. Did you have a favorite wrestler growing up, or someone that you maybe wanted to like inspire to be like, or model maybe some of your career after when you were kind of growing up?
Oh yeah, that list has kind of always constantly changed. Like when I was a kid. Of course, like watching my dad, like he was one of my heroes. So it's like he was up there and stuff like that. But he's definitely lower on my priority list now. But but like Kane, I loved Rikishi when I was young. Just like too cool, just watching him dance and all that kind of stuff. I remember that. It was just really cool to see that. Kurt Angle, of course. Kurt Angle always captivated me. Even when I was younger, I just thought he was like an amazing athlete and stuff like that.
Did you ever get to meet him?
I want to say. If I did, I was really young, but I haven't met Kurt yet. He's another one that would be great to work with eventually. Like it would be really cool to get to do some kind of be on a show with Angle or something like that. But eventually, as I got older, as people like Punk, seeing people like Punk, it's just like wow, like he was so unique because I felt like watching him, he felt like really like himself. He wasn't like trying to portray anybody else, and that was one of the things that especially. Growing up, nobody ever made fun of me for wrestling but they kind of knew my dad did and all that stuff. But it's one of those things where like, I always wanted to I had this passion and I wanted to do it. And I had like also just like my kind of core values and those things. And I'm like, I always stuck to my guns. And that's something that I kind of really appreciate with CM Punk because he always seemed like he stuck to his guns. He didn't matter what anybody else said or did. He was going to do what he thought was right. And, and that was going to be it. And I really kind of appreciated that, continuing on from there, just watching guys like now currently, because again, I watch, of course you got to stay current with the product, but like people like Seth Rollins, people like, Drew McIntyre, those guys, people, that are constantly evolving, your Roman Reigns, Braun Breakers, people like that. It's cool to just see like progressions of characters, wrestlers, and just, again, see how much, again, from like, a lot of people that I watched when I was younger have retired or getting close to retiring, but like people kind of when I was in my teenage years, like, for example, I remember I was about like 12 or 13 when the Shield debuted, and now they're the top stars in WWE and also AEW. So it's really cool to kind of see that progression, and as a performer, just like it's cool to kind of see like, okay, well, watching a match for myself from when I was first starting and then to now, it's like, all right, how do you progress and all that stuff? So it's interesting, and it's different as a fan, because again, you're watching as like, oh, this is cool, but as a performer, you're like, well, how do you evolve? How are these guys evolving? How do they do this? So it's definitely cool, and but I take from everybody, like there's certain people that, like I would say I'm more technical than I am like anything else, but I can do a little everything. I like to high fly. If you guys haven't seen, I've jumped off a mall. I've jumped off a steel cage. A mall balcony. I've done a couple brawls. I've been in some street fights. I've been in some Extreme Rules matches. So I like to it's just. I like to be a little bit of everything, and I think that's kind of when you look at pro wrestling, people that can kind of do it all, they're the total package. So it's yeah.
Let's talk about that mall for a second. For one, be honest with me here. Were you nervous when you were about to do that? Not at all.
No, I can look you dead in the face and say no.
Is that from just doing stunts, or?
No, I'm just crazy, I guess. I don't know what you could say, but it's confidence. So yeah, this was literally a week before the pandemic, might I add. So Wildcat had a show in the now defunct Esplanade Mall. So it was another mall, another place.
Ain't there anymore.
Yeah, it's there, but it's not open. But Esplanade Mall, it was a 2-story mall. It's February. We had our biggest show in 2019, November of 2019. The Revolution Rumble, at the Pontchartrain Center. We had packed out about 2,200 people there. It was myself versus Stevie Richards, another wrestling legend, and another person I give tremendous props to. Stevie, and I had wrestled, twice. This was our third match, and that's somebody else that I'm very grateful to have learned from. Stevie has been everywhere, anywhere and everywhere. He was in ECW, TNA, WCW, WWE, ROH, he's been everywhere. And to be... I was about 2 years in. So to just learn and wrestle somebody like that, again, it was a true privilege. But we were just coming off that show going into this Esplanade Mall. And, it was a tag team match. It was my dad and I, we went by Hawks Airy versus a team called Fly Def. Fly Def is from Booker T's Reality of Wrestling. Fantastic tag team. They're, they really are one of the best tag teams going right now. I would be, I could see them on a WWE, AEW, big company anytime soon, but it was us versus Fly Def, and we'd wrestled them several times, but it was one of those things where, we went in, we were setting up the ring at the mall, and it's just I go and I look, and I'm like, okay, well, yeah, I guess I can do this. I asked my dad, I'm like, hey, do you think I can make this? He's like, yeah. I'm like, all right, well, if you think so, I got it. You know what I mean? And then it's just kind of it. The match kind of was going on. Eventually it was one of those things where we were wrestling around, and eventually, everybody just kind of was down in the ring, and I'm just like, you know what? I'm just gonna kind of disappear in the background. And, the camera, you don't really see it there, but the camera is there. But you might see me just sneak off and go into the escalator, and so they're kind of just getting up and stuff like that, and you just see me, and the only thing I was worried about was just getting over the railing. As you see, I take my time. I the full clip, you see me kind of step over, and I'm just taking my time, because the one thing I said was, yeah, well, before I get to the cross, you know what I mean? That's the next thing. But I'm like, if anything's going to happen to me, it's going to be because I don't have proper footing. I know how to jump off things. I know my distance because, again, you practice so many times. I know how far, if I was to jump from here to here, I know how far I'm going to jump, land. It's just a little different because you have this elevation, but gravity's going to take care of the rest, because as I'm jumping out, I'm going to travel this direction as long as I have my footing. So that's the one thing you see me. I take my time. I get over there. I did the sign of the cross. I said, God, please take care of me. You know what I mean? If not, then, it is what it is. And I jumped. But as soon as I jumped, in my head, I literally said, I got this. I knew it. I knew I was going to land it. And then it happened, and it was pretty crazy, because I knew it was a crazy moment, but when we posted that the next day, I didn't realize how big it was going to be. And that was the crazy part. I just remember just, like I got like buzz, 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 buzz. My phone started buzzing non-stop. Like, and when I tell you, like, I had to silence my phone, I was thinking about just turning it off because, like, I was getting messages from everybody, text messages, Facebook notifications, Instagram, Twitter, all these kind of things. It was just going crazy, and it was like, wow, like this is just insane. You know what I mean? Because, the height was high. Don't get me wrong. Like it was like 20 feet, but the way the video was shot too, it looks crazy. You know what I mean? It looks like it comes from like 100 feet and stuff like that.
Definitely when you were coming down, it looked like a big drop.
But it was. Don't get me wrong. It was very high. It was high. You know what I mean? Like it's not an easy jump.
Did it make the news or like Sports Center?
Oh yeah.
Or anything
So
like
we made ESPN. I made Sports Center. I think like ESPN did like the top like 10 like whatever like craziest thing of the week. Or I was like number 2 or something like that or 3. But Ridiculousness played it. On my Twitter alone, I had like 7.8 million views. Like and it's just not every. So the 5-year anniversary happens next month in February. So it's crazy. It's been 5 years, but pretty much every year somebody eventually shares the meme, or I guess I don't know if you want to call it a meme or clip, and it always goes viral again every year. So I'm looking forward to see what kind of format it goes in this year. If hopefully it'll circulate again, but like last year I just saw it on TikTok. You know what I mean? Like somebody's like me trying to shop for something, and they just jump off, and it's like, oh okay, well now like, the only thing I'm like, give me please tag PJ Hawx. You know what I mean? But it's cool, man. The only sucky thing about that was COVID was the next week, so everything that I had was like up here.
Yeah,
just went down. But everything happens for a reason, you know what I mean? Later that year in August, Heels happened, season 1 of Heels, and I started filming that. So I mean, like I said, everything happens for a reason. But it was really cool. It was really memorable, and nervous, no, and I'm glad I did it. Will I ever do it again? Probably not. I wouldn't say.
Well, you can't replicate it again at the Esplanade, but we can find you like Lakeside might have 2 stories or something like that.
Well,
Parking garage.
If I jumped off that, I don't think I would survive that one. If I'm being, so.
Well, I can assure you that when that anniversary date comes up, we will reshare that for you and help you get back into the limelight of that. Because I remember when it happened, people were texting me, I saw the video on SportsCenter, and I'm like, wait a minute, is that Lakeside Mall? I was like, wait a minute, this is local.
Yeah. Who
is this? So I did some research. I was, again, kind of off air. I kind of mentioned that we have a mutual friend. And I texted my buddy Rashad. I'm like, hey man, I see that you're friends with this guy. What's the deal? And he's telling me about you, kind of you and your dad a little bit. And I was like, did you see what happened on SportsCenter? He's like, no. I'm like, go look. Like, go look at the SportsCenter top 10. Call me when you're done. He was like, yep, that sounds about right. That makes sense. I was like, okay.
Can I ask you a question? Mm-hmm. Because all right, so that's one of my favorite things was to. Seeing what everybody commented, and there was a whole different thing. But my favorite was seeing the people that knew me be like, oh, I know that guy. I went to high school with him. You know what I mean? There's other people that actually the people that knew me from high school but didn't really know me. They're just like that. What was your impression when you saw that? Because obviously,
I posted it.
You posted it? Yeah.
I posted it on my Facebook.
Did you know it was me right away?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, okay.
I was like, man, this kid's a fucking badass.
No, it's funny because, again, just talking to people I know, they're like, oh, everybody's reactions are different, but like the people I know, like, bro, like you jumped out the Esplanade Mall, that's crazy and stuff like that. So it was cool, man. Like I said, it's one of the things that, like I said, and I test this to viral stuff. Viral stuff, you can plan for something to go viral. You can do all these kind of things to make it look good and do all that stuff, and then it never does. You know what I mean? And something like that. We were just like, all right, well, again, we knew it was going to be big. We just didn't know how big. So, but again, it was wild stuff. But yeah, you won't see me jumping off the Esplanade Mall anytime soon unless they reopen. You know what I mean? Then gladly, maybe part 2 will come in soon.
All right, you mentioned Heels. Obviously, I know Travis and I are huge fans of Heels. Great show about an independent wrestling league in Duffy, Georgia. Patrick just started watching it. First episode, I think, again, you asked what my opinions were when you jumped off the Esplanade Mall second floor. I think I was even more impressed the first episode I watched of Heels, and PJ plays a referee, and it's not like that small of a role. I mean, you're in that first episode several times. So I guess overall, what was your experience like being in that show?
Man, I got to say that was such a very cool and very grateful experience that I had. You know, Heels came at a time, the same thing, where like the world was shut down. You know, this was August when like we kind of got the word of it. You know, but Heels was, you know, it was cool because everything, like I said, a lot of things were kind of opening up, you know, or trying to open back up. You know, film was, you know, there was film work, but it was a little slower and all that stuff. And same thing with wrestling, it was a little slower. But eventually, my dad had gotten the call, you know, to become the wrestling consultant for the show. And you know, eventually, you know, originally I wasn't going to be on the show. So my capacity on the show, I played the role of Denny the referee. I was an actor, but besides that, I was the assistant wrestling coordinator on the show as well. So like my dad's job was to read the script, break down all the wrestling, and translate in the ring. You know, we had a ring, we had a gym, and all that stuff. My job was also to assist that. So essentially, you know, a lot of times when he was reading the script, I would go in the ring and I would be teaching the actors the choreography. So I teach them, all right, how do we lock up? How do we do a body slam? How do we do this? You know, like me, Jay Spade, Brady Pierce, Zane Riley, a bunch of those guys would do that. But it's primarily like me and Jay Spade. Besides, again, my father was, you know, up here. And then we had our stunt coordinator, Artie Maleshi. You know, Scott Hunter was another one of the stunt coordinators, assistant stunt coordinators. But it was cool, man. Like, just to be able to do that because, like I said, prefacing this, like originally, they were trying to get me on a Stephen Amell stunt double. And, you know, I was like, I told my dad, I'm like, I don't look anything like this dude. You know what I mean? Like, I had my head shaved and all that stuff, but I'm like, I'm not, Stephen's a big dude. You know what I mean? Like, I'm not like, you know, I'm about like 185 pounds and stuff like that, but I'm like, I'm not that big. You know what I mean? But eventually, the guy that was supposed to be my dad's assistant ended up not being on the show. And so the stunt coordinator, he saw my clips. He's like, "Oh man, your son." He's like, "You know, we got to get him on all that stuff." And the other guy quit, and he's like, "Well, your son's hired." So I'm like, "All right, well, cool." You know what I mean? Like, and you know, I got the call on like a Wednesday, and I left to Atlanta on like a Thursday. So like, it was just kind of one of those things where it was like, it's pretty surreal. But like I said, the show was very much fun, very amazing stuff. Like to be on a TV show like full season, it was pretty crazy because, you know, normally I'm just working on a show for, you know, it always depends. Like for stunt work, you know, if you're let's say for like one episode your character just gets killed off, you're not coming back because you've been killed on the show, so you can't see that. But like, let's just say like, you know, there's certain ones where like you're doubling somebody, or like your bad guy stays for like a couple episodes, or just like more scenes, so you get a little more work. But this is the first time I've worked on something like consistently, you know, like for the entirety. So just to kind of see like the process of like, you know, like how they shoot everything together and all that stuff, especially during COVID, because things were kind of going back and forth because, again, COVID was happening. So some people were getting sick and all that stuff, or catching that. And, you know, just coordinating the wrestling, like just being able to teach the cast. Like, I mean, like, again, like I talked about Steven. Steven was great. You know, Alexander Ludwig was, you know, I worked with Alex. He plays Ace in the show, the younger brother. But I'd worked with Alex actually in a movie prior to that. So it was cool, like, getting to work with him again. But, you know, like talking to him, but he was such a pure athlete. Like, you'd show him the choreography once, and guy would just be able to just do it like that. And it's just like, you know, James Harrison, another.
He's a dish.
Yeah, James Harrison, like, you know, like two-time, you know, Super Bowl champion, you know, just like one of the greatest, you know, defensive players of all time. Like, James Harrison, dude's just a freak of nature, you know what I mean? Like, just watching him work out, you know what I mean? Like, and just, like, talking to him and just getting in the ring, like, when he, like, just doing stuff, like, there's a clip on my Instagram where, like, you know, we're locking up, we're chaining around, you know, he's just moving me around with ease. Like, I remember one thing we were practicing, like, choreography before where, like, he has to do, like, a spine buster. When he picked me up for that, I had never been thrown so easily in my life, and I don't think he was really trying either, you know what I mean? But he just picked me up, and I was like, I flew. I flew, but it was really cool. And, I mean, just seeing progressions of other people, like, Kelly Berglund, the one she played Crystal on the show, Crystal Tyler. You really see her a lot. You see her in season 1 a lot, but especially more in season 2. And she's somebody that grew tremendously. Like she really like honed her craft and just like learned all about wrestling and stuff like that, and just got in the ring and she like nailed it down. And Chris Bauer, another one you can see. I'm repping this shirt right here. Wild Bill,
it's a nice shirt.
Fantastic actor. Just like an amazing human being, but just somebody like that he loves wrestling. So just like. We would talk about like how he'd go to indie shows and all those kind of things like that, and just like he was dedicated to like the craft of playing like like kind of an older school wrestler and just like learning. A good friend of mine that I ended up becoming friends with on the show, Duke Davis. He played Big Jim. The one that wrestled Steven in the first match. Him and I became good friends. But just another guy, super talented actor. Just amazing guy. Just hard work. Robbie Ramos, who played Diego. Alan Maldonado that played Rooster. Like, there's so many, just like the actors, they did just such a good job of being dedicated to the role. They were constantly working out. When it came time to ring work, like they all went 100% in. And of course, they had stunt doubles and all that kind of stuff. But like, and the stunt team was also amazing. Like a shout out to all the stunt team. Like a lot of Wildcat wrestlers was on the show. Jay Spade, he played Rooster Allen stunt double. Brady Pierce, former Wildcat heavyweight champion, played Aces. Stunt double, you see a couple other Wildcat wrestlers throughout the show too, like Danny Flamingo, Chuck Devine. Chuck Devine. But like I said, everybody, and not even just from there, like the costumes, like the wardrobe just did amazing. Set design, like just seeing them build the set for like the Duffy Dome, like to just see that being built and just like it felt like it was so cool. I'm like, man, I wish something like this existed because like. This is cool. It gives like ECW like arena kind of like it wasn't as big, but like again just to have something where like again if you didn't watch the show, it's about Stephen Amell and Alexander Ludwig are two brothers in Georgia, using their trying to run their deceased father's pro wrestling company, so and that. Steven's the older brother, Ace the younger brother, so he's trying to guide his younger brother. Also, he's married to Stacy. Allison Luff on the show, and another amazing actress, and so just trying to, and he's got a young son, so just also trying to be a father, trying to be a husband, like to other wrestlers, trying to get in the spotlight, feeling like they're not like worked, like the show writers, like Mike O'Malley, Michael Waldron, like they did a really good job of researching the world of pro wrestling because again. As somebody that lives it, you know what I mean? And again, as my father that's done it and all these other wrestlers, you ask them about watching the show and it's like, yeah, these things really happen. It's not like, driving and, missing events or, you know what I mean? Like, or just feeling angry because it's like, okay, well, when is it my time? When is it my time to shine? When is it my time to do this? Or again, like just those family feuds. I mean, I can attest to that. You know what I mean? Like just, having conversations and problems with arguments with my father about like, oh, what about this and what about that? You know what I mean? Like any job, you know what I mean? Or any like family business too. And like I said, I think Heels did a really good job of showing the world of professional wrestling, but also showing like just human life outside of that. Like it's not just about the show and all that stuff. Like we're real people. And I think the actors did a tremendous job of just showing that kind of side. And again, like, I thought the story was great. The wrestling was all top notch, and it's a shame that unfortunately it got canceled on Stars after 2 seasons. I thought the finale was really tremendous, but it's on Netflix now. You can catch both seasons on Netflix, which is really cool. I mean, the fact that it's on Netflix is amazing, because Stars was a big platform, but I mean to be on Netflix it's huge. Netflix is the biggest streaming platform. There's so many, but it's still the biggest. And the fact that WWE Raw just got on there too. I mean, now we have so many more eyes to be able to come and watch our show. And who knows? I mean, like, people like CM Punk were on the show. People like Mick Foley, Damien Sandow was on the show. Nick Aldis, a bunch of other wrestlers, And I mean, Punk's on Raw. So like, people are like, oh, well, I see CM Punk's on the show, and they start watching it. And now it's like, okay, well, like I really like this show. Well, let's get it back. And there's other shows on Netflix, that they gotten from other TV streaming services that gotten canceled, and they brought it back. I think Outlander was one I think, or maybe Vikings, but I know one show, like there's a couple shows that have gotten canceled and Netflix kind of revived and stuff like that. What were you gonna say?
Cobra Kai was actually on YouTube TV at first, and then they came to Netflix and
they brought it back.
The series, yeah.
Yeah, so I mean, it's definitely cool. I hope that it gets brought back at least for like one more season, so kind of finish it and wrap up that story. If that's the case, I have no clue what the third season would entail. You know what I mean? But if you watch the finale, it's really, you really want to, like, you wonder what's going to happen after that. And I don't want to spoil it for anybody that's never watched it, but I mean, it really was just like, oh, like what is about to happen. So
yeah, it's a pretty messed up cliffhanger, and I'm not going to spoil it for Patrick, but you would think they would want to lead into a third season with that one.
Well, I think Mike O'Malley was pushing for it. I think that's one reason why they got it on Netflix.
Yeah. But like I said, it was a lot of fun, a lot of talented people on that show, and I'm very grateful to work on it. If you haven't, go check it out. It's called Heels on Netflix. You can watch both seasons, 8 episodes on Netflix today.
Yeah, I'm pretty jazzed. I'm only on season 1, episode 3. I'm new to the show, but I'm so far so good. I'm enjoying it. I kind of question that I want to kind of bring up, kind of going back to like your Wildcat days and stuff like that. And we kind of say we're going to prep you on questions. We're just going to let them fly kind of we go. Can we talk about the match with your dad that you have been promoting on Instagram for a while?
Yeah, let's talk about it.
You don't have to get into full detail. Whatever you want to talk about. I don't know any story about anything. So if it's cut me off at any point if something comes up that we don't have to talk about. I'm just curious of like how was that in a sense of like you're wrestling against your dad. I don't know any backstory. So can you just take me through whatever you can about that moment or just like how that kind of played out?
Yeah. So unfortunately, wrestling is, again, pro wrestling's a show and stuff like that, but sometimes real life issues kind of blend into that. And my father and I, we honestly haven't seen eye to eye, in like, at least over a year and a half. It's kind of one of those things where just like, and I'm not going to get too much into the details, but just like we just, there's a couple topics where we're just like, all right, and just like, personal feelings. We're like, all right, like we're not really getting along. We don't feel like this. And then just kind of like, we just stop talking. And it's one of those things where like, obviously I'm trying to keep it professional because like, at the end of the day, it's his company, but I still want to wrestle there. But like, our personal feelings don't necessarily have to be a conflict of, work, you know what I mean? But it was tough, of course, because again, he's not just my boss, he's my dad. And a lot of those things, it was tough, you know what I mean? There's points where it would just get awkward, like at training, because I was one of the, assistant to eventually head coaches at Wildcat, coaching the students. So like, just having to interact there it could be awkward, at the shows too. It would just be really awkward just because, again, it's obviously like, we're both trying to like, be professional, but at the same time you really can't because, again, it's like, all right, well, we have this issue and stuff like that, and or issues. But yeah, one thing kind of led to another, and eventually it kind of just spiraled out where I was like, all right, well, we have these issues. Well, let's solve it in the ring. We both are kind of like, let's do that. And a lot of it, I don't want to say it's dumb, but it's things that I think can be solved. But a lot of it also just comes from like respect. Like I said, he's my father, but he's also kind of my boss. And I think sometimes. I'm not seen as PJ Hawx. I'm seen as Perry's son. And it can be tough because when you're trying to do that and you're trying to work and bring ideas, you're trying to do things and, like just prove, like, again, as a creative, do things, I'm not really seen in that light. And it could be, and that's just one of those things, but, to kind of talk about, but it's just like, to do that, it was just tough. And, like, it's one of those things where, like, all right, either I can just not accept this or not, like, try to do my own thing and just, you know what I mean? Like, go from there. And like I said, we wrestled. We had a match at our Revolution Rumble. It was our 13th year anniversary, I believe, and we wrestled in a steel cage. And yeah, I mean, it was a pretty violent match. We got into it, I was bleeding, and we were just kind of going all over the place and stuff like that. And it is what it is. I can't tell you that I'm going to be at Wildcat anytime soon. I think the best thing for me to do is just kind of take some time away and just not be there. But, I don't want to have an issue with my dad at the end of the day. I love him. You know what I mean? I'm always going to love my dad. He's my dad, and I care for him even if we have issues, he's still my dad. And but at the same time, too, I had to stand my ground as an adult, and just he's got to respect that, because at the end of the day, I'm not a kid anymore, and but I also get, I'm not a dad yet, so I know that there's going to be different feelings probably when I have a kid, and it's like, all right, well, you may think that, but at the end of the day, I'm just trying to look out for you, because I know again, he loves me and cares for me, but it's one of those things. I hope that eventually we can sit down and talk, and just he can just respect me for who I am, and obviously because there's things where it was tough, I talk about all the good times, but there's times where, again, a lot of times he wasn't there at home. You know what I mean? He was gone chasing wrestling, and, my parents also, unfortunately, didn't have the best relationship. Again, it's a lot better now with my little brother for them and stuff. But, when I was younger, they didn't really have the best relationship. So it was tough because, again, my mom, I love my mom's fantastic mom. That side's great. But, again, when you talk about consistency, again, my dad was gone a lot of times chasing his dreams. So again, it's tough. You know what I mean? Just trying to talk about that and deal with those things. It's things that you have to kind of sit back and accept and realize, all right, well, I understand. Again, it sucked he's gone, but I know he was doing it because he, if you know my dad's story, he grew up in poverty, didn't have anything. He had to earn everything. You know what I mean? Just drove across country, slept in cars, you know what I mean? Just trying to grind and get that. And I give him plenty of props, but also, he had to sacrifice a lot. But as a kid, though, it sucks, you know what I mean? Because, you don't view it as, my dad's doing this. It's like, oh, well, why isn't he here? Why isn't he there for me? Why isn't he doing this kind of stuff? Well, I see you doing this. Why can't you do this for me? You know what I mean? And it sucks, you know what I mean? But it's things as, like I said, I've gotten older, you kind of realize and understand it. It's just, but like I said, man, it's, the match happened, you know what I mean? It's not something, at the end of the day, I might be able to look at it later and be like, I'm cool, but it is what it is. But more than anything, I hope that eventually we can kind of reconcile and talk about things. But it's more than anything, it also has to come from a place of respect from him too. If he doesn't, then, there's no way we can kind of move forward.
Absolutely. I appreciate you even addressing that like that. I probably put the cart before the horse when I was getting to my question, because ultimately the question I was really trying to get to was how much input you have on the creative side of wrestling, and do you enjoy that part of it? Is that something maybe you would want to do more of when your time as a primary wrestler is done? So yeah, I kind of maybe stepped in front of myself when I got to.
Oh no, most definitely. One of the things I would say, that it kind of happened when my dad and I kind of started to have more, disagreements, stuff like that. Is he did a lot. He's done a lot for me in my career. And besides being my coach and just kind of getting me started up in wrestling. But that's kind of the other thing was I never really did anything on my own in the sense of just all right, picking out my gear, doing those kind of things, stuff like that. And I'm sure if I would have told him, he would have listened. But just when I kind of really started to go off my own and stuff, just all right, picking how do I want my gear to come out? You know what I mean? Those kind of things, working with people, my sister-in-law actually is the one, if you look at my new jackets, she's the one making them. And so talking to her about that kind of process, doing those kind of things and stuff like that. Same thing with music. I'm getting my custom music this year, but just talking about that, talking to people all right, how are we going to make, how do I want the song to come out? How do I want to represent PJ? How does PJ Hawx want to come out? And so those little things where I necessarily wasn't doing before, I'm doing now. And it's really cool as a creative because pro wrestling, as much as it is a sport, it really is entertainment. And, we have to go out there and we have to captivate good ones. Good pro wrestlers have to captivate audiences because you want them to, you want to be larger than life. You want people to be like, man, I remember that guy. He was cool. You know what I mean? Or he was scary. He was a jerk, So I've really kind of grown just to pay attention to those things and like how do I want to be perceived, and how am I trying to make myself a bigger, star essentially in professional wrestling. So it's cool, like I said, to answer that question. Yes, it's things I'm thinking of now, but especially it's like, all right, how do I progress myself? And even then, again, if I'm doing, if I'm wrestling somebody for 3-4 matches, it's like, all right, well, like, how do we go from here? How are we trying to tell this story? How are we, again, what are we trying to look like? What character points are we trying to get across? Like, like some things that are big for me, just being respectful, playing by the rules, having integrity, those kind of things like that when I wrestle and stuff like that. So, again, maybe, this person and I are going and we're wrestling and they're being a jerk, they're cheating a lot. I might have to resort to some dirty tactics just to kind of, just to keep it even. Do I do that? Do I not do that? And it's like I say, it's really cool to just, tell the stories in professional wrestling. So I definitely would love to see myself continuing as, just more on the creative side. But even then, just as a coach, I love to coach. One thing is I did coach in my old high school, Grace King. I was the assistant wrestling coach there it's literally the year after I graduated, I was volunteer assistant coach. And then the year after that, I was the assistant coach. So just going there and coaching guys, and at Wildcat too. I was the former assistant coach and then head coach for a little while. But just like coaching people, I love to teach people. I did that in Heels, you know what I mean? Teaching the actors how to wrestle and do the choreography and stuff like that. It's so much fun to figure out how to teach somebody how to do things, how to get them to, like, when they see the light bulb, and it goes off in their head, and it's like, wow, like, it's fun, and it's a good challenge because it's like, all right, well, this person's struggling with that. How do I get them to overcome that and become better? And it only makes you a better performer or whatever it is you're doing, because you're learning. You're also figuring out how to do things better and more efficiently. And, you got to take from all aspects. That's the other biggest thing, too, is just like learning from everything, learning from pop culture, learning from music, learning from other wrestlers, learning from other creatives in different avenues and stuff like that. You can pull from everything. And I think that's the fun thing about wrestling, especially you watch now in WWE and stuff like that. There's so much. It's so mainstream now. I feel like it's at a point to where everybody's talking about it, and it's a lot of fun. So it's cool to see the progress. And again, it's something definitely down the line where I would love to kind of throw my hat in there. But if not, once I'm done wrestling, definitely coaching, is something I really enjoy too.
So
but,
how different is like high school coaching versus like professional coaching?
The biggest difference, honestly, was really, it's kind of I would say the age difference, of course, the biggest difference, just because, again, like, with high schoolers, we've had some adults, you come in, they're not that mature either and stuff like that. But, like, that's one of the things, with that. But, if anything, it's a little bit harder with pro wrestling because, like, for example, Wildcat, we do practices 3 times a week, right? It's 3 hours 3 times a week. Tuesday, Thursdays, like 7 to 10, and then Saturday mornings from like 8 to 11 or something like that, right? So it's 9 hours a week. But the thing is we only have 9 hours a week compared to, like, in high school, at least for our wrestling team, like, we practiced every single day besides our meet and tournament days, and even then we'd practice on the weekends, but we were there for 2-3 hours, you know what I mean? And we're constantly doing that, working out, just going home, sleeping, doing whatever else. It's tough to be a pro wrestler because, again, the thing is, people have jobs, people have lives, people might have kids, they might have other responsibilities and all that stuff like that. And besides that, the one thing that Wildcat prides itself on is being a reputable school. You have to do things a certain way. Like, before you even get in the ring for Wildcat, you have to be able to get through a set of 100 total, but 4 sets of 25 push-ups, jumping jacks, squats, sit-ups, and then also do about a 2-mile run. And there's more exercise, but that's just like the bare minimum to get in. Like, do it properly, not like, struggle, like, be able to do the entire set. There's people that come into training and they can't do that. You know what I mean? It's kind of a harsh reality because they sign up and they're like, oh yeah, I want to be a wrestler and do all that stuff. But it's like, all right, you got to think about it this way. If you can't even hold your body weight up, how do you expect to hold up anybody in the ring and keep them safe without, hurting them, like badly or anything like that? And it's tough because, like, you don't know what people are doing outside of the training. We only have 3 hours, but again, like, my job isn't to train you to, like, get in the ring. My job is once you're in the ring to teach you the technique and all that stuff. But I can't be like, all right, we're going to spend 3 hours working out, because then we're not doing any of the in-ring stuff, you know? So a lot of it, at least for pro wrestling, I would say, is a lot of self-accountability, you know, like actually having the, what is the word I'm looking for? I guess it was self-accountability. I'll go back to the word. But just making sure you're doing your workouts outside of Wildcat, you know, or whatever wrestling school. Making sure you're in the gym. Making sure you're running, doing all those kind of things. Because, again, like, matches, I mean, like, the one I did with my dad was about, like, 26, you know, to 26, 28 minutes. You know what I mean? That's a long time to be doing anything. You know what I mean? Like, most of my matches all go at least, like, you know, 12 to 15, sometimes 20 minutes. You know, so you got to have good wind to do that. So I think that's probably one of the toughest challenges to compare to, like, high school wrestling is, like, again, like, of course there's some kids that, like, you know, don't try and work out, but it's a little easier because we're doing the whole package. In pro wrestling training, we're there to coach wrestling, not really about, you know, and of course we always offer guidance to, like, strength and conditioning and those kind of things, but, you know, like, we're not doing the main focus is the wrestling, learning the ring. We're learning psychology, learning how to do the moves, those kind of things. Not really, all right, we're going to teach you how to work out. And I think, like I said, it can be a challenge to some people. But I mean, but then you have some people that are super athletes. You know, we've had people come in and they just roll through the sets and they're just athletes in the ring. But I think that it's a wide, and it's no different from, you know, high school sports. Everybody here in this table has played a sport in some life. So, you know, you've seen some people that are just freak athletes. They come in and they're just born to do that. You know, they're just like, they're amazing. They can run faster. They can, you know, push harder. They can do all those things. So again, you have your varieties, but and that's the cool thing about coaching to me is like, all right, like, how are we going to make you improve? And that's the part I enjoy the most.
Well, watching TV, you know, watching wrestling on TV, you see, you know, all these crazy moves and, you know, no holds barred type things. How much does safety really play into, like, the backstage type stuff?
Oh, I mean,
with wrestling, is that really held at a higher standard than what is perceived?
100%. I mean, at least to me, you know, my main concern obviously is, you know, one, my safety, my opponent's safety, and two, putting on a good show. You know, my rule of thumb, again, matches are hard hitting. You know, we're going at it and stuff like that. But at the end of the day, I'm trying to make sure that, you know, again, because we all have jobs, we all have other things to do. We probably have to drive home. We want to make sure that, you know, again, we might dislike each other or whatever in the ring at the moment, but at the end of the day, we still got to go home. So it's like just making sure, you know, to try to, again, like I said, you're slamming people, you're not throwing them on their neck. You know what I mean? Just try to keep them safe. You know, hitting them in, you know, the areas where you're not going to, you know, break something, like, you know. And I mean, with Wildcat, you know, we really hone in into all those things, you know, making sure to practice those good techniques, safe techniques to make sure, like, okay, like, you're not gonna hurt anybody, because nobody wants to wrestle somebody that's just gonna hurt them. And I don't mean like they're just like they're tough. You know what I mean? I'm just mean like, you know, you're gonna break an arm wrestling them. You're gonna break a leg. You know what I mean? Like, something's getting like severely hurt and are getting a concussion. You know, and things happen. You can't, you know, there's certain things you just can't prevent in matches. Like, accidents happen. But again, that's the difference between a good school and you know, like a bad school, in my opinion. You know, people that really show technique, and at the end of the day, like, people that are gonna be able to take care of you and, you know, do a good job. You know, it may be a little physical and stuff like that, but at the end of the day, you know, it's like everything's primarily safe. You know.
All right, so we're kind of reaching the end of this podcast here. But I'm going to go ahead and ask you, how is your pro wrestling career going, and what current organizations are you in?
Yeah, man. Like I said, it's a little weird point for me because, again, I came off this match with my dad, and that really took up most of 2024. You know, I wrestled for a couple new promotions in Louisiana, like Pro Wrestling 225 and a new one called Top Draw in Lafayette. Did one called Lost Art of Wrestling in Mississippi, you know, but it was primarily just Wildcat stuff last year, you know, just kind of really focused on my dad. Like, you know, it was kind of just us going back and forth, and led to the big cage match. And, you know, I really that was in December, and kind of really took that time to kind of reflect. But, you know, I'm really, this is going to be my 7th year wrestling. I'm really looking forward to taking off my singles career, you know, and just push forward. You know, I got a match coming up, in 2 weeks in Plaquemines, Louisiana, wrestling for Pro Wrestling 225. I got another match after that. I can't really share the details for that one yet, but I'm looking forward to when that gets announced, you know, talking about that, just because that's going to be a nice, really big opportunity, you know. But I got one. And for a promotion called BIW, it's a tournament style, so which kind of brings me back to my amateur wrestling roots. It's like, yeah, you're gonna be a tournament. All right, cool, sign me up. You know what I mean? Like I'll do it. But yeah, that's gonna be cool. But really just looking forward to just getting out there wrestling against some of the best wrestlers. Just trying to get all over the country too. I've wrestled for promotions like NWA, Ring of Honor before. Of course Wildcat before, but just really seeing where the wind takes me. But this is really the year where I've kind of just like, last year was kind of building, kind of this like the foundations of how I want to be PJ Hawx as a wrestler and stuff like that. And I've kind of found my identity and just like really just pushing forward from here. So looking to go everywhere and anywhere this year. You'll see me all around, and I'll probably come back to Wasted Wagons to come tell some stories of the road.
Absolutely. We need a PJ Hawx Part 2, uncensored,
Absolutely.
uncovered. Sorry.
We definitely hope to catch you at some of these shows. So
Most definitely.
Well, we always close out our episodes with a top 5, and we've actually already participated in this one ourselves. But we would like to know, who are your top 5 favorite wrestlers of all time?
now you can do honorable mentions too. Patrick only likes to include 2 honorable mentions at most, but sometimes if you include 3 or 4,
It's a soft, unwritten rule.
you don't want to leave anyone out.
Right. Oh, it's tough to do top 5. There's so many different categories. Are you talking about best performer? Are you talking about greatest draw? Are you talking about best technical, or not technical, but just best wrestlers in the ring and all that stuff? Who's best on the mic? So my list.
If you would like to give one of each, you can.
We'll be here too long, But I'll give you some of my favorites. 5. I'll go with somebody more current. Like I said, we talked about it a little earlier, but Seth Rollins. I really love Seth Rollins' work lately. Just seeing from. I didn't really follow too much of his indie stuff. I've seen some of it now older, but when I was younger, again, I wasn't, I didn't have the VHS tapes and the Ring of Honor stuff, the DVDs. But, of course, I am familiar from his work from like Tyler Black and all that stuff. And then, but just seeing kind of his like evolution from like FCW to NXT to like, eventually like the Shield stuff. And just seeing how that character kind of evolved, to eventually like that Monday Night Messiah and just like, Seth freaking Rollins now, like he's really a character that you can kind of see that evolution very clearly and how he's like kind of portrayed himself. So, somebody that I think is, I don't want to say he's underrated because everybody knows that Seth Rollins is one of the, the top wrestlers, but just he's somebody I think eventually that, is going to get a lot of praise just for like, his versatility, like his skills. He's just really amazing, So I'd say Seth Rollins at number 5. Number 4, I'll probably put Bret Hart at number 4, just me as a kind of technical wrestler, best there is, best there was, best there ever will be. I think Bret was amazing. He's one of those people that like, if I want to go watch match psychology, kind of study like just about wrestling, he's the guy I'm going to go watch, just like breaking down his matches, because he was just, again, another amazing wrestler that can just kind of go with anybody. And, he has a lot of cool stuff that like, that's the other thing is too, is like you go and watch like stuff that you really don't see done anymore. It's like, so it's cool to watch that, my favorite match to watch him versus Owen Hart, WrestleMania 10, I believe. And like it's just brother versus brother, but it's one of my favorite matches to watch. I thought Owens. If you want to talk about honorable mention, he's another one. Like I think Owen Hart is just so amazing. It's so sad that he lost his life so early. But truly was just an amazing wrestler, just fantastic. And I think that that entire family was great. 3, I'd have to put Booker T, the 5-time World Heavyweight Champion. Well, really 6-time, but Booker's another one that I feel like is very, everybody knows Booker, but he's underrated in that sense too. Just like he's always so entertaining. Like you go watch any of like when the WWE was doing like the Invasion angle and stuff in the early 2000s, and just like I love. So I was about 3-4 years old when that happened. So like I remember some of it, but not really. But just go and watch all that back. It's cool to watch. He always put on great performances. Always was an entertainer. Just great in the ring. And he just had some funny promos. Dude was just hilarious. He's cool. Like the spinner. I love the spinner Rudy. It's just like Booker's the man. You know what I mean? I've wrestled for Reality Wrestling, his wrestling company in Texas, Houston, multiple times, and. Like I said, he's always been a cool dude, so I Booker's definitely top. I would say third. This is where it gets tough for me between my 2 and my 1.
So is ours one.
That's why they're usually in no particular order.
Yeah, but I'll put for my 2 simply because I'm going off just how amazing. Well, I'd say my 2. I'd have to put CM Punk at my number 2.
Ooh, I thought he'd be number 1.
So, CM Punk's my number 2, and the thing is, like, CM Punk truly, like, I know we've all had like those wrestlers that like you just kind of like that was your guy. That was my guy when I was like really young, and I mean, of course, for me, it was cool because I remember, like, when he had left wrestling, he was going to be at WrestleMania 30. It was going to be my first WrestleMania. Like, my mom got us tickets. That was the first one here in New Orleans, stuff like that. And I was so excited because I'm like, I'm finally going to get to see CM Punk at WrestleMania. And he left WWE like literally like 2 months before the Royal Rumble. So, and he, like, we didn't know if he was going to ever come back to wrestling. And so it was really kind of sad for me. Like, I was like, I was like, okay, like, I kind of accepted it, but. And like I said, eventually I got to work with him and meet him again, work with him when he was, and like he was like there's a saying that says never meet your heroes, but I'm so grateful that I got to meet him. Like, Punk was always so cool. Like, anytime I had questions, he would answer them and stuff like that. I tried not to bother him too much because I'm like, that's one that's like, all right, I'm trying to like respect your space. But any time I needed to talk to him, like he'd answer my questions, and this before he came back to AEW as well. But again, like, super cool guy, and just telling me stories, stuff like that, and just like like one time I'm like, all right, like I like finally got the courage. I was talking to Jay Spade. I was like, like, you think you would go eat with us? You know what I mean? Like, and he's like, just go ask us. You know what I mean? So I'm like, hey man, like, we're gonna go do this. You wanna go? He's like, yeah, sure. I'm like, okay, no, we'll just go eat. And he just he just told stories, stuff like that. Always made sure to come tell me hello and stuff like that and goodbye. Again, just like a genuine cool dude, but like the wrestling aspect, you know what I mean? Like, I just remember, to me, he was cool. He he was unique. He was like just himself. And anytime he put, he was in the ring, like, I thought he just was great. His pipe bomb promo, I remember watching that live, and I just remember how crazy that was, especially at the time. It was just like, I can't believe he's doing all this stuff. And when, like, he beat Cena at Money in the Bank, I feel like nobody expected that. It was just kind of those crazy moments, like, oh, I can't believe this happened. He came back, called the personality to come in. It's like, he had the swagger, man. And like I said, eventually he came back, and it was really cool, like, if you talk about a dream match, like, of course my goal is obviously, to get a professional wrestling contract. I'd love to get signed to NXT eventually and get onto the main roster of WWE, but you talk about a dream match, PJ Hawx or CM Punk is definitely my dream match, before he retires, or even if he retires, I'll make him come out of retirement to wrestle me. But I'd love to wrestle CM Punk. That's just like one of those ones where it's like, unfortunately, like a lot of the other ones, I don't think like could happen for my dream match list, and that's probably another good list. Like, who's my top opponents? Maybe we'll do that in the part 2. But Punk is definitely my dream match opponent, and again, like, just he does have a special place in my heart just for pro wrestling. Like, like, that's one of the reasons why I fell in love with it. Again, my number 1. And this will make a lot of sense once, you said that it has to be Kurt Angle. And, Kurt Angle, the reason why with Kurt Angle, you talk about something like to emulate and stuff like that. Like, Kurt Angle really is, I'd say, like, the total package of, like, a wrestler, it's truly amazing when, like, and honestly, besides Logan Paul, and I know people, they're not really too fans of Logan Paul, but, you got to respect as an athlete how he just came in. And every single match was a high-profile match, and he's just done a fantastic job. You know what I mean? Like, I don't want to get into other stuff, but, like, Logan Paul really is, like, a fantastic, performer and wrestler. And I think, but Kurt Angle really, like, I mean, he came in with, maybe, like, 2-3 months of training or something like that, just came into, like, WWE scene. Like, that's one of the things I just remember watching he had dark matches before and all this kind of stuff, but, like, when he I forget, I think it was Sean Stasiak that he wrestled. I forget who he's wrestling, but, when he cut the promo, he's like, "You do not boo an Olympic gold medalist." And it's like the fact that dude was not nervous, again, in his first, like, Raw match, trying to do that kind of stuff. It's a testament to how much of a natural he is. And there's somebody you just watch we can go with anybody. Again, not somebody that didn't have pro wrestling experience. Again, now this is an Olympic gold medalist, so he's a great athlete, but didn't have any pro wrestling experience. There's a lot that goes into that. You know what I mean? To perform well and do those kind of things. Like Kurt just is amazing, and like he's one of those people that you just go watch his promos, like. Especially in the early because again the phases kind of switched. Eventually when he became like more serious, like he was like the wrestling machine, like he was just kind of just messing everybody up and just being a beast, just being an Olympic gold medalist. But like the early 2000s, the skits with Ed and stuff like that, and just him being silly, it is hilarious, and he's just so goofy. He wasn't afraid to make fun of himself, and again but you also knew when Kurt got in the ring. You didn't have to wonder if he was just a goof. He's an Olympic gold medalist, so he could mess somebody up and just it was cool. And definitely somebody to me that's like kind of like the whole package of a wrestler. So that's kind of why he's a little above Punk, just because like when you look at it, it's just truly impressive. And I mean you go watch his story. I mean like he grinded, man, and like just the fact that he was able to do the stuff with the Olympics and all that stuff. That's just sheer willpower, and it's like it's impressive, man. So I mean, yeah, it's my top 5. I'd have to say Seth, Brett. Booker T, Punk, and then Kurt, but like it's like he slightly like ever so slightly beats Punk. It's after watching Drew and Punk at Hell in a Cell, Punk beat Angle at the time, so I mean he's gonna top my list again soon. Don't worry.
All right, so when you were a kid though, you said that Kane was your favorite. At what point did he fall out?
I don't want to say I ever stopped liking Kane.
He's just not a top 5er.
Well, it's different. You know what I mean? As you grow up, it's like I guess the easiest way I can put it is my dad when he was younger, he loved the Ultimate Warrior. And then when he became a teenager, he loved Mr. Perfect, Kurt Hennig, another wrestler that I love. Mm-hmm. And it just you appreciate different aspects. Again, when you're younger, it's just like Kane was just cool. For one, I love the color red. So again, he comes with red. I had long hair. He had long hair. You know what I mean? He has fire. It's just cool. You know what I mean? And don't get me wrong, Kane really for a big guy. You know what I mean? He definitely is one of the really good big guy. You know what I mean? Yeah. But in general, I think he's good too. But like the list just changes in terms of what I'm watching. Again, like I told you guys earlier, just like. Especially now, like the things I'm watching for wrestling, like I'm watching, of course, to just enjoy, but I'm constantly breaking things down because a lot of this just like, how does this apply to me? How do I get because I want to get there. I want to be on that main stage one day. So it's like, all right, what are these people doing? What do they do right? What do they do wrong? What do they switch? What doesn't work? How do they interact with those things? And I'm studying all those things. So eventually, when it's my time, I'm ready to do that. You know what I mean? Like that's kind of the difference, like when I'm watching. So why you asked why the list is a little different? I'm not. Kane was probably like 6'8", I don't know. So he's real tall, and like 250 plus pounds of muscle. I'm not that. So I guess that's kind of why that changed a little bit. But yeah, again, I'm just watching for different things for sure.
Yeah, I can relate to that. I think when I was younger, Batista was one of my favorites.
A beast.
But over time, I think I started to appreciate like more of the smaller, more athletic as far as like doing high flying stuff. Those are the kind that really kind of overtook, as far as the bigger guys. Now, I still like Batista, still like Kevin Nash, but at the same time, I really grew to appreciate a guy like AJ Styles who could pretty much do it all.
Yeah, but like Batista's another good one. Like if you talk about some of the best big guys, and again, that's why I said the list always like, what are we talking about? Are we talking about best entertainer, like you talking about big guys? You talk about fantastic big guys. Batista is one of them. Like he looked like $1 million, but he could wrestle. He was good, and like he knew how to work his size and stuff like that. And the same thing. Besides that, I mean, just a great entertainer. Like some of Batista's promos, like with my friends, we still quote to this day. You know what I mean? Like, and I love like the one where he was about to fight Triple H, about to retire, with Ric Flair. Like I remember just like he's calling out Triple H like Hunter, blah blah blah, and just like I just remember that promo. But Batista is definitely memorable, had presence, and like and of course Undertaker too. Like Undertaker, you're talking about like somebody with longevity, could move and all that stuff. Just like had aura, presence, can move in the ring. Like so again, there's so many different factors, with pro wrestling. But again, like this is just. For me, personal favorites that I like to watch, you know what I mean? Like, there are people that I can just put on a match and just watch and just, like, just chill and just like, all right, like I want to watch this, or just like if I want to go study, like these are some of the people that I can study. But if you're talking about, I learn from everybody. You know, it doesn't matter whether you're big, small, all that kind of stuff. You know, like or like even like women's wrestling. Like there's a ton of talented women wrestlers out there. You know, that are just phenomenal. You know, it's really changed from. I mean, the 90s. I mean, you guys obviously were watching more, and you guys can really attest to that, I'm sure, because you know from watching.
I mean, I think the Attitude Era was more so like a skin flick than
right, exactly. You know what I mean?
talent.
But now you have women again. Like for the most part, they're all they're good looking. You know, but at the same, but they can wrestle.
They're skilled.
They're so good. You know, what I mean, sometimes they're better than the men. You know what I mean? Like there's girls that they just bring it. And even on indie shows, you know what I mean? Like they're a lot of them come with, you know, like, hey, you know, we're not just a cute face or whatever like that. We can go, and I appreciate that a lot. You know, because it makes wrestling a lot better itself. So again, there's so many factors, but. That's I'd say that's my top 5. So it might change in a couple, you know.
Couple of years, yeah. Like that's a pretty solid top 5 regardless. So
yeah, I think Bret Hart like fell in like 4 out of 5 of our top 5s.
Yeah, probably.
Well, PJ, we're gonna conclude this podcast episode, but before we do that, we ask everybody that's been on our episodes these little silly questions, and I would love for you to answer them. As little or as much as you want to say about it. Okay? All right. So there are choices. So the first one is pumpkin spice or chips and salsa.
Chips and salsa, easy.
Yeah. Chips and salsa. All right.
I don't dislike pumpkin spice. Let's say that out there. You know what I mean? I'm definitely an October guy. You know, my birthday's in November, so like, you know, I love fall, but
November what?
November 2nd.
Okay.
All
Must
right.
be a November thing because my wife agrees with you. It's chips and salsa.
Yeah, but you know, chips and salsa. It's good. I mean, but I don't know. I'm also weird. I'm not really a snack guy, if that makes sense. Like I like dessert. I like ice cream, but like that's like I would go for ice cream. Like I'm not. If we're at a restaurant, of course I might get some chips and salsa, but I'm not gonna eat chips and salsa at home. But overall, chips and salsa.
Okay.
There you go.
Well, you spoke my language for a second. Ice cream. What's your favorite ice cream flavor, though?
It depends on the day.
Are you primarily like just a plain like flavor color guy, or are you into like
Depends on the day.
Oh, okay.
So like for example, right now, obviously we're in Mardi Gras season right now. So one of my favorite places to go, at least here, is Creole Creamery. I love Creole Creamery. Their king cake ice cream to me, absolutely fantastic. I love their king cake ice cream. But normally I'll get cookies or Cookie Monster from there. You know, Oreo, Chips Ahoy kind of stuff. Or it gets, you know, I love chocolate. I get a chocolate ice cream birthday cake every year with Kit Kat, you know, and sometimes there's a good chocolate. So it just depends on the day. But yeah, definitely some Cookie Monster regular, but not king cake right now. King cake ice cream.
Are you a fan of mint chocolate chip?
That's a negative.
I didn't ask.
You know,
No, I like mint chocolate chip. I'm gauging his reaction.
Honestly, I haven't had it in like years, so I don't want to tell you no because my taste buds have changed. That's one thing I've known. Like as you get older, your taste buds change. There's some things where when I was younger, it was absolutely disgusting. I'm like, now I'm like, oh, that's really good. You know what I mean? So, but I'll have to try it again. But let's just say I cannot comment on that.
That's fine.
Yeah.
That's fine.
Fair enough. Pizza rolls or bagel bites?
That's tough.
Isn't it? There's only one right answer though.
It's pizza rolls.
if you like it in your mouth scorched.
If you like,
So
Let him answer.
I think bagel bites. So this is my thing. Even though calzones are great, I'm more of the straight up pizza guy.
Yeah.
Which is why bagel bites kind of override that because you get more of the pizza taste, you know, from a bagel bite. But again, like I would just get a pizza over eating bagel bites or you know pizza rolls or anything like that. So, but I mean, I've eaten both. What kid hasn't eaten pizza rolls and all that stuff?
But if you had to choose,
Bagel bites. That's what I'm saying. We're going bagel bites. But, like, pizza rolls are still good.
Mike, I thought you were Team Bagel Bite. I'm sorry, but Todd and I are Team Bagel Bite. Them two are
I'm a pizza roll.
pizza roll.
I like that we have the yeah.
Now, however, the pumpkin spice chips and salsa are actually 3-1
So you're
pumpkin spice.
So who's chips and salsa here?
I'm chips and
You're
salsa.
chips and salsa.
Yeah.
Okay, all right.
Because the way Mike set this up when we first had this stupid idea was like you could only have one, and like not like maybe like forever. Would you choose pumpkin spice or chips and salsa? I'm like, well, pumpkin spice is only a thing for like 30
Right.
days, like a month. I can have chips and salsa any day of the week,
Which is
any time
true.
of year. So of course I'm gonna choose the thing that I can get anytime I want.
That's true.
And it's also just more delicious.
Yeah.
I like you. I have nothing against pumpkin spice. I've had pumpkin spice latte. I've had pumpkin spice cookies and whatever like that. But if I could only have one, I'm taking chips and salsa. There's more variety to it. It's not a question.
Yeah. No,
But
I
if
get
you could have the pumpkin coffee high protein smoothie 30 days out of the year over chips and salsa every day of the year, wouldn't you take it?
Oh yeah.
No. Again, I have there's 330-ish other days that you can't get that item. I can have chips and salsa anytime I want, anywhere I want to go. Your pumpkin spice smoothie or whatever is only available at one place.
Have you guys? I'm sorry, I know you were going to move on, but have you guys debated this on a previous episode already?
Almost every episode.
All right, perfect. I was going to say
Almost
because
every
this sounds like this is like a
That's why
debate.
we-
Yeah,
that's why we threw it in on the interview.
Excellent.
We have a
It's an
few-
ongoing debate.
excellent,
Yeah.
excellent.
It resurfaces every couple episodes. Someone wants to bring it up, or we get a new guest to come on randomly, and
Yeah.
Mike or someone has to ask the question, and
Yeah.
I'm like, it's not a debate question, but here we are.
All right, PJ. Last one, and this one's really for the lady listeners out there. Boxers or briefs? Or men listeners. I mean, whatever.
Personal life, not
Come on, man, I got a wife. Come on,
We
no,
boxers and
I guess briefs. Yeah, I don't. If I'm being honest with you, I don't really know the difference between boxers and briefs. I know I don't wear speedos.
But yeah,
as,
so you didn't throw out the boxer brief as an option.
So there's briefs, there's boxers.
Well, if he
there's boxer briefs.
wore boxer briefs, he would say boxer briefs.
That's what he's
I wear
trying
boxer
To,
briefs.
that's what he's trying to say.
That's what-
a combo unit. Yeah.
I wear
Combo
briefs.
unit.
I wear boxers. I wear everything.
Okay. All right. Good deal.
Boxer
No
briefs.
whitey tighties.
No whitey tighties.
Okay.
I wear a
Lady-
singlet. How
Ladies,
about that?
PJ does not
I wear
wear
a singlet.
whitey tighties.
It's tighty whities, but
Well, that concludes it, huh?
Well, that
well, before we close out, I just want to again thank you for coming in. I mean, look, you hold an interview excellently. I mean, for a young guy, I mean, it's pretty impressive.
I appreciate it. I mean, I would hope I do, doing this this wrestling stuff.
You're practicing those mic skills to be like the
of
next
course.
MJF.
But no, I really appreciate it. It was a pleasure to be on. Again, like when Todd told me about this, I was like, yeah, I'd love to do this. I mean, one, again, it's always good to just talk about wrestling and my career and all that kind of stuff. But two, like again, how cool is it that I get to kind of again, going from a young teenager knowing him to kind of now it's like being able to talk to him, my high school counselor and on a podcast. I mean,
yeah.
it's also pretty surreal when you talk about it. Like I said, I talk to my friends and they're all like, oh, that's pretty cool. So, but no, I appreciate being on here. If anybody wants to catch me on everything, you can find me at PJ_Hawx. That's on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook. I think it's just P.J.Hawx. You can also find some of my stuff on YouTube. You just type in PJ Hawx. You can find some of my matches. The mall jump, if you want to see that, just look up PJ Hawx mall jump. That'll pop up somewhere. But yeah, and then the most recent shows you can catch me at, I'll be wrestling at Pro Wrestling 225 in Plaquemines, Louisiana, January 25th. I believe doors open at 5, show starts for 6. You can find me there. I have a singles match against King Rob Love. I have another show coming up soon that hopefully I'll be announcing on my socials. And then the next month I'll be in Brookhaven, Mississippi for BIW, the Down in the Bayou tournament against Casey Black Rose, my BIW debut. And from there, like I said, check me out on Heels. You can catch that on Netflix. Just look up HEELS. And if you see the referee in the ring, there's only 2 in the show. One of them's me. Oh, actually, there's a couple more. So, but one of them will be me. So just check that out.
Just watch episode 1.
It's episode 1. You'll see me. So, but yeah, again, thank you guys so much for having me on. And, hopefully, we'll do this again sometime soon.
Thank you, PJ.
Yeah, absolutely.
And until PJ Hawx interview part 2, Wagons out.
Wagons
Wagons out.
Wagons out. There you go.